January of 2020 was a month where I had gone through a big weight loss journey. Since around 2016, my weight has always yo-yoed. During certain times it was down and during certain times it was high. But in January of 2020, I lost around 30 pounds of fat. I used to weigh 190 pounds in June of 2019. So I dropped to around 161 pounds, roughly around 30 pounds of fat loss. It was a big achievement for me at this point. I had surgery on an infection I had on my leg since late 2015 and it kept coming back. It was in an awkward position which made me inactive. It was behind my knee, so I couldn't walk, I couldn't run, I couldn't even climb the stairs properly, and I couldn't even sleep on my right side. But after I got the surgery and it healed, I lost weight. Fast forward a year to January 2021. I went from 161.6 pounds, losing 30 pounds of fat. Back in the gym after years of fighting an infection and hospital trips, I weighed 200 pounds, a record high for me at the time. I gained around 40 pounds of fat in 1 year. How do you think I felt at this point? After all the tests and hardships I went through for nearly 5 years of my life, I gained the weight back plus more. Maybe sad, angry. What if I told you I felt ambitious? You think I'm a crazy person. But that's exactly how I felt. But I thought I'm going to lose the weight properly, correctly. That's exactly what I did. I went from 200 pounds to 178.6 pounds. Within that same year, I lost tons of weight. I fixed all my skin issues. And most importantly, I looked good and aesthetic. Internally, I was very relieved because I knew I got to the root of my problem. With my weight always fluctuating, with my skin not being good, and with my skinny fat / fat body. The first thing and the most important thing I did was eating real food, which was my mum's food. My mum cooks homemade food that she makes, food that she knows what ingredients are inside. But the one little issue, I say little issue, but was a massive issue, was my mum would cook food in vegetable oil or sunflower oil, which, as you know, is seed oil. And what I did with that was I tried to consume the seed oil as less as possible, as very little as possible, because my mum would, to put it into perspective, my mum would give me a bowl of food, right? And within the bowl, there's, for example, let's just say she'd made chicken on this day. So she would put the chicken legs and whatever else, and it would come in a soup. In a soup, and the soup in itself, if it wasn't seed oil, if it was anything else, if it was ghee or anything like that, it would be very good for you. It would be a beautiful meal. I nearly said a handsome meal, but it would be a beautiful meal full of nutrition, full of antioxidants, everything the body needs. But the seed oil in itself brings the nutritional value down very, very low, even negative. It might even become unhealthy. But let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that I ate it for a very long time. So what I started doing was I started draining the soup out. So I was just eating dry chicken, just for the simple fact that I did not want to start or continue consuming the amount of seed oil I was consuming, because what I realized was my body was very, very inflamed. Like, a lot of these skin issues is just inflammation and heat in the body. And what I did, another thing I did was I started eating less often. So I would still eat meals at mealtime, but I started increasing the amount of food I ate during the meals. And between the meals, I would not eat, I would not snack, which is a big, big mistake a lot of people make. And it's a massive cause of weight gain. And I'll come to that in a second. And as well as consuming more during the meal times, I started having more protein. I started consuming more protein because I realized for years and years, I just simply was not consuming enough protein. That's why my body was not at the level that it could have been. Even to this day, my body could have been way bigger, way stronger, way more aesthetic, way more leaner. Of course, I gained strength, I gained some amount of muscle because I was still having certain amount of protein, but the ideal amount of protein which I was supposed to be consuming was way less than I actually was. In reality, it was way less. The reason because of this and what it actually does to the body is insulin. Insulin is a very, very, very big topic, and it should be a very, very big point of concern for a lot of brown people, especially because of brown people, they love snacking. They wake up in the morning, they'll have tea, they'll have biscuits. Then whenever the lunchtime is 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, they'll have lunch then. They'll have some bread, as usual with everything, right? They'll have this little rotli. Then at tea time, around 4, 5, 6 o'clock, they'll have another, they'll have tea again with some biscuits, with some bread, with some croissants, with some toast. Then at night again, at 8, 9 o'clock, they'll have them they'll have their meal of the day, and then that's it. If you're lucky, that's it. They'll probably have a sweet treat a bit later on. But what that does is, first and foremost, there's a few things what that does. It constantly spikes your insulin. Every time you eat something, every time you eat carbohydrates, you get an insulin spike. And what insulin spike is your blood sugars go up. The blood sugar goes up, so basically everything can be digested, and it uses what you're giving it. Now, if you're constantly spiking your insulin throughout the day by eating a lot of carbohydrates, your insulin becomes resistant. Your insulin stops working, and your insulin is constantly high. It does not get regulated. And what constantly high insulin does is it puts you in fat storage mode, and it will inevitably, not eventually, but it will inevitably and eventually lead to obesity and weight gain. And alongside that, you'll have a lot of other issues like diabetes. That's why it's very prevalent in brown people, because the insulin is messed up. And it affects your heart as well, because once you get to a certain weight and you become fat, your heart has to work nearly twice as hard, maybe not even twice, maybe even 3 times as hard to pump the blood around the body where it needs to go. Now, if you're a skinnier person, let's just put it into perspective. If you're a skinnier person, the heart doesn't need to work very hard to pump the blood around the body, because the body mass is less. Like, if you're someone who used to weigh 50 kilograms and now all of a sudden you weigh 80 kilograms and it's just fat, right? The body has to work way more harder to pump the blood around your body. Now, if you're someone who's naturally big, like that's how you were born, you were just massive and you were like 6'8" or something ridiculous, you were a basketball player, then fair enough. But if you're someone who's just become fat, you're at a very vulnerable position in terms of, your heart, your liver and it's very important for brown people, because their liver is more so compromised because of an evolutionary thing, which I won't get into at the moment. But this is something which I did. I started eating more during mealtime. I started having more protein, and I started eating less. Now, if you're someone who, you can't get in your protein during your meals at mealtime, then I would suggest having an optional protein shake between the two meals. So right bang in the middle of the day, in the middle of the 2 meals, have a protein shake. Don't put anything, don't put overly fake foods in it. Have your protein powder, have some kind of milk. Put some fruit in it, some vegetables, some chia seeds, some honey for sweetness if you want. And that's it. That's all you need. That's all you need. You need to start thinking of food as fuel rather than food as something which you can taste. Of course, having tasty food is important, but make sure it's actually healthy food. Because some people think the two cannot coexist. Some people think for something to be healthy, it has to not taste good, which is completely not true. It's completely false. Healthy food can taste good, and in my opinion, it should taste good. The next thing I did was I started training hard. I started training purely for aesthetics. Previously, I was training, of course, don't get me wrong, I used to go to the gym, but I was constantly changing my routine. I was doing push-pull legs, I was doing bro splits, I was doing the normal chest and tries, back and buys. I was doing 5x5 programs, and because I was constantly switching, I was making no progress, and it was like a cycle, because I thought, you know what, I've trained a certain method this week or this month or a couple of months, I've seen no progress, let me switch to a different one. And then the same thing would happen again, and the same thing would happen again. But then once I thought, you know what, I need to lose weight properly this time, I started training purely for aesthetics, purely for looks, purely to look good, because I had done everything else. I did the 5x5 programs, I could do the 100 kg bench, I could do whatever else you wanted me to do, but if I took my top off, I still looked horrible. And what's the point of training if you look like shit, right? If you look like you just do not look good. So I made the change to training for aesthetics, and this was a big change for me. Yeah, actually, in terms of ROI, I would say the diet would be the first, but the second would be the aesthetics, because as you lean down and you start training for aesthetics, the right muscles start to pop, and then it's a completely different game. The next thing I did was I walked a lot, and I got a lot of sunlight. The way I did this, it was during coronavirus time. Me and my friend would go to Asda. We would go to Asda. I wouldn't say we would make a day out of it. It was kind of an event. I would go out, we would talk. It would be about a 10-15 minute walk. None of us had cars at the time, so We would walk, we would go there, we'd walk around in Asda, we'd get whatever we need to go, and then we would kind of come back way around his house, and we would just stand outside talking about life, talking about whatever we wanted to talk about. And I felt like that aided my weight loss in a way, because of course I was getting my steps in, but I was getting a lot of vitamin D in. My hormones were definitely more optimized because I was outside, I was walking, I was talking, I was in good spirits as well in a way. The next thing I did was I tracked how much I eat. But there was a bit of a caveat to this one, because I already knew how much to eat because of previous weight loss journeys. So this in this specific video, I'm talking about when I actually became aesthetic and lean. But in the previous year, from June or July of 2019 to January of 2020, I lost around 30 pounds of weight. And in there, I kind of, I made sure I tracked everything. So following year, when I had to do another weight loss journey, I knew how much I was eating. But for you lot, if you don't know how much you're eating, make sure you track how much you're eating, because if you don't know how much you're eating and how much, food is going in your mouth, how many calories you're consuming, you don't know where you're going. You're literally shooting in the dark. You might be wasting your time. You're definitely wasting your time if you don't know how much you're eating. If you know roughly how much you're eating, you're getting in clean ingredients, and you've been through weight loss journeys, or you've helped someone else go through weight loss journeys, then fair enough. I tracked everything. I knew how much I was eating. I knew how much exercise I needed to do. It was all a bit of trial and error in the beginning, but once you get everything down, then it's a very smooth journey. It's not, it's not very tedious and long at all, like some people might have you think. But track how much you eat, because common sense, if you know how much you eat, you can adjust accordingly. If you're not losing weight, you can start consuming a little bit less, or you can start walking a bit more. If you're gaining weight, then you're like, oh, you know what, shit, man, I'm eating too much. Let me eat a little bit less. Let me start working out a little bit more. So that one's a little bit common sense. A lot of losing weight, gaining muscle is, in my opinion, common sense. So if you want to get lean and aesthetic and fix all your skin issues, which I had, which I was suffering with for nearly my whole life, and as well as put me through a little bit of a recomposition, which made me feel better, more energy, better focus, better sleep. This is exactly what I did. This is exactly what you need to do. Eat real food, which I've said obviously. Train hard, walk around a lot, get your cardio in. If you're someone who can't walk around a lot, then I would suggest investing in a walking pad, which is over there right now. And what that will let you to do, you can literally have the ability to walk whenever you want, wherever you want. For me, most of the time, if I'm even watching something, I'll put it in one of the rooms and I'll just start walking. I'm still watching something. I'm still enjoying myself. It's not like I'm running and I have to do a lot. You're just getting in more steps during the day. And eventually, say you go from 5K steps a day, then all of a sudden you go to like 12K steps a day. The amount of weight you're going to lose and how much better you feel, how much better you look, it'll be a night and day difference. And that's why you need to get aesthetics. Start eating more protein, start training hard, start training for aesthetics, walk a lot, get your sleep in. And that's literally all you need. That's all you need. And if you want me to guide you through your own weight loss journey, 1-to-1, where I basically become your friend and I tell you exactly what to do, have regular calls with you, answer any questions you have, then join my school community and navigate over to the classroom tab to find out more. Thank you.